Welcome to the Acknowledge to Action podcast, a space where every story matters, every experience teaches, and every voice has the power to inspire meaningful action. Here, we help guide you through the journey to acknowledge, accept, process, and plan to take productive, purposeful action. While our journeys may be unique, each story connects us through shared resilience, insight, and growth. Acknowledge to Action offers a path of awareness and support where every story inspires connection, every lesson fuels growth, and together we find the courage to move from acknowledgement to meaningful action. This is Acknowledge to Action. Ashon, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited for this conversation. We are reconnecting after a few years. We have a lot to catch up on. We initially connected back in January 2022 when you were just finishing up Montgomery County Community College. And then I was working there as a manager of veteran services. We had you on the Veteran Power Hour, and here we are now in the Acknowledge to Action. So welcome, Ashon.
Thank you. It's good to be back. Time moves so fast, and it's crazy.
It sure does. And that's every conversation that I've had on Acknowledge to Action has been really great. And as we pull back the layers, but especially this one, because this is an opportunity personally for me to catch up with you, hear all the great things that you're doing. We'll do a brief recap. And then we'll hear from you how you've managed that, what your goals are. So as I mentioned, you finished your associate's degree at Montgomery County Community College in January 2022, and then you were moving on to Penn State Harrisburg to go earn your bachelor's degree. You did that, and now you are a graduate student at Villanova, all while being in the Army National Guard, and you're recently promoted to Staff Sergeant E6.
Yes, sir.
So that there's a lot to cover, a lot of great things to cover, because this really speaks to what the Acknowledge to Action podcast is all about. Acknowledging and then doing what needs to be done to take action.
Yes, sir.
What got us reconnected on LinkedIn was Mike Brown from Villanova University shared a great post with you because you're a veteran student there in pursuit of a master's degree program, right? And you were recently honored with the NCTA Changemaker Award. Let's start there. Talk about that. Tell us what that consists of, what you did to earn that, and what that honor entails.
So the NCTA it actually stands for the Internet and Television Association. And basically, I'm one of the first recipients of the scholarship, the Fund the Future Scholarship. And what that means is I was nominated, particularly by the Emma Bowen Foundation. They nominated me for this award based on so I've been in Emma Bowen organization for years, and based on my work at a news station that I was in, my work in the community, and my GPA. And so all those things came in, and they saw that I gave a speech as well at Penn State Harrisburg for my graduation. I was a graduation speaker, and they were like, "Hey, this kid's perfect for this." And so they reached out to me. I had to make like a little video thing. I'll send it to you later. You might like it. Okay. But I had to make that, and they were like, "Yeah, this is for him." And so October 22nd, I'll be at the New York Marriott, just talk on stage, talking to all these big companies like C-SPAN and a bunch of other companies. I'm very excited for it.
Oh, that's awesome. So it's an Internet and Television Trade Association. So for more context to what that is, so the work you were putting in for content creation, let's say, the Internet and Television, they acknowledged you with that. So talk a little bit more about that. So is that what is that what your bachelor's degree is in? Is that where you're going for your master's degree? So talk a little bit how this all comes into play and how this all came to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So my bachelor's is in communications, which is slightly contrasted from my associate's, which is psychology. My bachelor's is in communications, and my master's is also in communications. So communications kind of entails photography, videography, journalism, but it also encapsulates the academic version of that. So studying media theory and things like that. And so I think that's helped me get the award. But I think everything else was the work I've done for the news station, the community, just being somebody that one of the things they put there was like my positivity and what I bring to the workplace. And so just sometimes it's hard to describe what you're doing, like doing
Yeah.
right, and you're just doing it, and like like I'm not doing anything right. I'm just being me, and you don't realize the impact you can have on people until they like really tell you, and then they bring something like this to you, like, hey, I think you'd be great for this. I was like, okay, all right. I mean, like, I'm not gonna. I've for a long time since I was a kid, I've been trying to push myself in different directions, like get rid of that nervousness, get rid of that fear, and just jumping into situations where I think I can improve in. And if it goes well for me, amazing. If it doesn't, I've got another lesson to learn. So yeah,
That's some great advice and a really positive, empowering mindset to have, because it speaks to here you were acknowledged recently for the work you put in and how you describe. I was just being me. I'm just doing my thing, right? And what comes natural, and you identified at some point a talent to whether it's which attracted you to go on and study communications, and as you said, with videography and all that comes with the communications, especially in today's world and social media, right? And you're developing a talent into a skill set, and to you it's just like, I'm just showing up and being me. But to the rest of the world, and for people to acknowledge, like, no, Ashon is a step above his peers in regards to what he's bringing to the table. That's what I'm hearing, and that's how I'm kind of putting the pieces together. And that's one. It was very important for me to reconnect with you because of us connecting back in 2022, and here we are now in 2025. But also to further acknowledge what the work you've been putting in. We need that, whether we want it, whether we need it. But I just heard a quote today. I may have to reference it on my phone. We don't always get what we want, we get what we are. Right. And the timing of that, seriously, I just heard that this morning. And here you are sharing your background, your story, and saying a lot of times you're just doing your thing. You're showing up, doing what needs to be done, and then you get that. You get what you are. You're really putting it in, because what I really want to highlight today too, you're doing all this while being in the Army National Guard. I reference how you were just recently promoted to Staff Sergeant E6 in the Army National Guard, all while it started off with Montgomery County Community College with an associate's degree, going on to get your bachelor's degree from Penn State, and now in progress with getting your master's degree from Villanova. You're really crushing it.
thank you.
And also too, you're recently promoted to E6. And I know we talked a little bit before we hit record, but when you enter that pay grade, that rank, E6, Staff Sergeant, and I know it's a different ranks in all different branches of service, right? But for you in the Army, E6 Staff Sergeant, that really starts to set you apart, in my opinion, and my experience. That really sets you apart from your peers. E1 to E5, very important pay grades, very critical part of the infrastructure. But E6, you start to rise above, and that really, arguably, maybe one of the most important pay grades in the military, because of the experience and focus and the skill set that you have and your talents you bring to the table. The Army recognizes that, and any branch of service, any branch, they see, all right, this individual put the work in, got promoted. Now he or she is ready for E6 and to lead and be the way, to pave the way for the E1s to E5s, and then going on to become a senior NCO at some point, right? So I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, and if you had asked me if I was like I'll be completely honest. I didn't even think I was going past my first contract when I first joined. I guess
Yeah.
that's that basic training you're going through. Like, oh no, this is not happening for 6 years.
Yeah.
This isn't happening for 6 years. And then somehow I re-enlisted. I don't know how that happened. Just
Yeah.
like,
Well, it sounds like you did what you felt right. You trusted your
I
instincts,
did.
and it led you to, and that's all we really can do sometimes. It's just trust your instincts, not overthink it, and just do what feels right in the moment. And we get what we are.
Absolutely. And I joke about it, but I really did take my time with that decision, and I do believe it was the right decision. I know it was the right decision. I mean, I'm seeing it now. I know it was the right decision. Yeah, it's always like whenever you get to signing anything like that, you get there and you're just sitting there like I don't know how this could play out, but like I couldn't imagine it going any way better. And I have an amazing unit, awesome
Yeah.
unit. So I didn't bring this up, but my job in the military is way different now.
Okay.
Do you want me to talk about that now?
Yeah, no, hey, no, this is your time. That's what this is all about. So before you go, I want to just highlight how what acknowledge to action really is all about, and why this conversation is so far like really great, and it's only going to get better. Is acknowledge to action. Well, what is that? You acknowledge, you accept, process, you come up with the plan, and then you take action. There's a lot of versions of that mindset. That's nothing cosmic about that. There isn't, but it means something to me. And the power of acknowledge came from my military service, being an air crew. Like acknowledge, arguably one of the most important words we use in an operational checklist, acknowledge. And it all starts with acknowledge. So you acknowledged you were coming up on your contract. Like, I'm not sure if I'm really going to do this. But then when time came, you acknowledged it. You accepted, all right, a decision needs to be made. You processed it, I'm sure with friends, family, colleagues, the whole bit. You came up with the plan and you took action. And you've done that in a variety of aspects in your life from the little bit. We're just skimming the surface so far. I just wanted to share that to foot stomp. That's kind of corny. The acknowledge the power of acknowledge to action and how you are using it in your life. So talk about that, because it is no small feat. Talk about your job change in your MOS. Did that? How did that come to be? Was it something you initiated? Did somebody come to you? Did you cross train? Did you have to go back to active duty and cross train to get that MOS reclass? I think it's in the Army. It's called. So yeah, talk about the power of acknowledge action and how you did that in the Army and how that's helping you in all these aspects of your life.
Yeah. So about when I went to Penn State Harrisburg, I was still doing my first MOS, which I was a signal support system specialist. I was the radio guy. And, that was all right. Not the job I really wanted to do, but, it was the job that I had. And so I was doing that, and I was in school at Penn State Harrisburg. Part of my schooling was photography. And so I was like, all right, I have to get an assignment done. Let me take my camera to drill. And at drill, I started taking some pictures of some soldiers. I'm like, oh, these turned out pretty nice. These turned out pretty nice. And then I go up to my well, she was the first, became a master sergeant after I left, but she was my sergeant first class, my platoon leader. And I was like, hey, what do you think about these? She's like, these are nice. She's like, there's a job in the military that does this? I was like, nah.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Like, for real? She's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, well, she's like, you interested? I'm like, yeah. At first they were like, oh, you should be like a UPAR. So that's like somebody who stays at a unit and does like journalism photography for that unit, but they still have their job. So I would have that job on top of the job I already had, which was not sounding fun. But then she really helped me out, and so did my he was acting as a first sergeant at the time. He was my sergeant first class. His name was Sergeant First Class Sampson. And they started looking around for me, and they found a unit at 40 in Town Gap. It's my current unit now, the 109th Mobile Public Affairs Detachment.
Okay.
And they were like, yeah, you can come over here. You can do photography. You can do journalism. I was currently working at WGL, a news station in Lancaster. And what actually happened is they came to the news station, which I didn't know that. I had no idea this was happening. They were in there, and they were just like, I was just sitting at my desk, and I'm like, I feel like I recognize that name tab. I'm like, I've been talking to you, haven't I? And he's like, yep. Hey, aren't you supposed to be coming over to this unit? I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh, cool. And so like that was the first time I met them in person.
It was like a spot check.
Yeah, I was like, it really threw me off. He's like, Sergeant Calhoun. I'm like, yes, Sergeant Calhoun. Like they just happened to be visiting the news station, like a partnership. It was just a coincidence. And so I joined like after my first year at Penn State Harrisburg, and I've been connected.
So they were there for other reasons. You just happened to be there as
literally,
an intern.
Literally no.
So it was straight up coincidental.
Straight up coincidence. They were there for a tour.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
They were there for AT. They were there for their AT.
Yeah. Okay.
They got to tour the news station because they wanted to see how the news station did on that side.
I just had to ask for clarity because
No,
I
yeah,
wasn't. I know we were joking, like it was a spot check, like let's go check this guy out. No, it was a legit circumstantial
circumstance.
coincidence.
I
Okay.
recognized the name from the email on the Army in the name tab, and I was like, what? And so I
Yeah.
had to, yeah, and that was my first introduction to my unit. And so,
Wow.
yeah,
That's pretty. Honestly, that speaks to. That's a great behind the scenes example of all that's involved with those who are in the reserves and the National Guard, whether it's Air Force, Army, National Guard, reserves, and then the reserves are all branches of service, right? But it just speaks to how much you have to balance, and it's there's a different level of challenges, but also with that, there's a different level and of opportunities for you to be an intern at that news agency in Lancaster, and then the public affairs from Fort Indiantown Gap just happens to show up. It really speaks volumes of, and it sounds like the opportunity is already in progress, but it speaks to the professional portfolio and experience you get beyond the uniform. And I think that's pretty cool. I think that those are a lot. There's so many of those stories out there, and some days it is taxing and it can wear you out. But here, I'm excited to hear more how that worked out, because that's a shout out to your sergeant first class who acknowledged, speaking of acknowledgement, right? Acknowledged the opportunity. Like, hey, Ashon, did you know? And it was like, it was an opportunity. They gave you access to an opportunity that you weren't even aware of.
would have never done it.
Yeah. So that's really cool to hear. So how long you been doing that? I like to hear the details. Did you get reclassed, and how has that worked out for you the last couple of years?
So, see, it's been about 2.5 years now, but I officially reclassed. Uh, I left in October to Fort Meade, Maryland, Infos, the Defense Information School,
Okay.
where you get trained, and I graduated as an honor grad there, so that was pretty cool. But I'll be honest, I think it was harder than Penn State. I think it was harder than Penn State because like it's so specific the way they grade you.
Yeah.
Um, that was like I've always been pretty good with my grades, and so when I got there and I was and like it was challenging, and I'm like I haven't gotten an 81 on assignments since ninth grade, and I'm like, and it actually kind of prepared me for this master's because I was like this math like it's so much work, and like you can only do your best. You can only do your best, but I still ended up graduating there, very high grade. Met a lot of friends, got to go on a lot of adventures. But they taught you military journalism, military photography, and I graduated from there in February. So that's when my MOS officially started. But I've been at the unit drilling, doing the job for about 2.5 years.
Okay. Talk a little bit more about that, because what I heard is you, out of just a passion and a talent you had of yours, you took photos of some of your colleagues, of the soldiers, and you presented that, and that's what led to this opportunity. Talk a little bit about your talent and skill set and your passion for photography, and how it led to that, and what you've been doing since you've cross trained, not cross trained, that's Air Force, cross trained, reclassed into this MOS, doing public, it sounds like public affairs. That includes, talk a little bit about that. I'm imagining it's beyond just, it's more than just photography.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely. There's a bunch of things that go into it. For me, so my role has mostly been as I've been doing video productions. So we just had AT not too long ago, and my job was to create. Actually, this is I got an AAM for this. This is my first AAM, so I was pretty excited.
okay. So to tell what AM, I know that,
Oh yeah, I got it.
yeah, that's okay.
I'm using the jargon. That's an Army Achievement Medal. Achievement Medal. And so what I did was I had to make a comprehensive news video because our unit is getting deployed to Germany. I'm not going with them, but they're getting deployed to Germany. And so one of our readiness checks is our ability to produce videos. And so I had to make a comprehensive news video using all the stuff that the other people in the unit have collected, and I had to put it together, make it seem like a news video, which is I do that. I did that at the news station, so that's kind of why they picked me. But And I think they realized, oh, he's pretty good at video, and this is his thing. So that's mostly where I've been flourishing at. I do photography. I do some writing, but I'm more of like the visual information guy.
All right. And I could only imagine, just from a consumer standpoint and going to the various outlets of social media, um, to say that again, that was what you're the visual media. What was it? The
The visual information.
visual information.
Hmm.
Okay. 2 words, visual information. That's a lot. If you take a step back and think about that, that probably entails a huge macro perspective and a big portfolio. What exactly is it? How do you manage that? How do you make visual information productive, efficient, effective? And because I imagine, well, I know there's standards in the Army, Air Force, any branch of service. There's expectations and standards to make visual information very specific, but also efficient and effective. How does that play into what you do, both personally and professionally?
Yeah, so everything that we do in visual information for me specifically is command message oriented.
Hmm.
What am I going in there to show? What am I going in there to demonstrate and bring attention to? For example, if my commander wants something demonstrating readiness, that completely shifts how I'm going to use my lens. I'm now not worried about like I'm instead of capturing maybe like emotions, I'm capturing how soldiers are preparing for certain things. How, like, for instance, our weapons testing. I'll go cover a live fire. I'll start covering things that apply to readiness. And so, as you know, the military, everything is top down. And so when I get that command message, okay, this is what we're covering this to achieve this, then I can that kind of builds a script for what my lens does. All my lens does is, and what I do is tell a story. And so once I get that story, I just go to where that story can be told. So I won't go to like I'm not gonna go to to the unit cafeteria if I'm telling a story about readiness.
Mm, yeah.
So it's very based on what my command message is and what the commander wants to be shown to the public and internally.
How would you say, how does it apply to your civilian portfolio and experiences? Because I'm hearing a lot of transferability and tangible and intangible skill sets that you could draw and tap into to apply to all that you're doing outside of that. Because what you're doing in the Army National Guard and in the Army is really cool. And it's really continuing to set you up for success within the Army, and your recent rank and your recent Army Achievement Medal demonstrates that. How can you apply those now? Because I imagine, well, we talked about that. You had a talent and an eye for photography for quite some time. So you took a talent. Your talent is now being developed into a fine skilled skill set. How are you applying that? And what are your plans to apply that in the civilian sector to continue to build off of that?
Well, so, and this will tie in, I promise. So I was blessed from Villanova to receive a full scholarship. And one of the reasons I received a full scholarship is because I'm a GA here, a graduate assistant.
Okay.
My graduate assistant position is communications and marketing. And so what I do, and actually I just did it a few days ago, I'll shoot videos, to conduct interviews, make press releases. I'll do that for the Graduate College of Liberal Arts and Sciences here. And
Okay.
so that's part that this is I work in the college and I also attend the college. So I'm already using those skills here. That was part of my resume to get in. Not only that, because of how structured the military is, you think with like something like video or like writing, it's so creative, right? And, it comes from you, but it still needs some type of structure.
Mhm.
I've realized that if I just sit down like, or if I just go somewhere and like shoot a video with no plan, I might get what I want eventually, but I have overshot. I've like shot 1,000 videos when I only needed like 50 because I didn't know what I was looking for, and then I had to prepare it together later instead of coming up with a solid plan. That is a structural part that the military has taught me to videography, journalism, is to have that structure then you can have that creativity in the civilian world, and then you can mix them together. So now here when I'm talking to my supervisor, I'm like, hey, so I'm gonna write for this video. I'm gonna make a script, or I'm gonna what's it called? I'm gonna make a shot list. I never did that before. I never did that before the military. I would really just go out and like, let's just shoot whatever looks good, and
Yeah.
then it's either good or it's not. But because of the structure with creativity that the military taught me, I now know the best way to approach, you know, things visually and more efficiently, I'd say.
Yeah. It sounds that way for sure, especially where we're at with social media. Everything is so instantaneous. And sometimes quantity takes the lead, and we have to sort through that quantitative vastness to get quality components out of it. So your military experience, having reclassed and doing what you do at that level, has helped you focus on a qualitative element that comes with a general overview of how you approach how you're going to capture a particular, whether it's something personally, professionally, in the context of the Army, the military, or for Villanova as you proceed, and even personally. I think it's so important for us to have access points to share and tell our story. Some of us like to talk. I do. That's why I do this podcast. I like to talk. My sort of go-to is if people are willing to talk and listen and exchange, I'll talk. That's how I like to get my story out and share other people's stories. Sometimes it's through creative art, through music. I mean, the list goes on and on. We need an outlet to express ourselves in an honest, respectful, and purposeful way, ideally. And the sooner you get access to that, the sooner you acknowledge that and understand that, it helps you find the ideal access point. And that's what I'm hearing from you, is you acknowledge that through chance, circumstance, opportunity, is you're finding your outlet to, not only are you capturing this really cool stuff you get to do in the Army at Villanova, and I can only imagine what the path ahead is going to provide you and where it's going to lead you. But here you are at the same time kind of sharing your story. Well, today, obviously through this podcast, it's directly sharing your story, but the power of that is really important.
Yeah, and I've been blessed with the opportunities to do this, and I haven't had to worry about I haven't worried about finances. The military paid for my bachelor's, paid for my associates.
Yeah.
My commander, you know what? And I want to mention this because this is so awesome. When I gave my graduation speech at Penn State Harrisburg, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I go out into the crowd after, and my commander's there with his son. I'm like, what? He's like, you didn't. I didn't even know he was coming. You just showed up,
Yeah.
and like that for me was just such a that's such a moment. Like he didn't have to come. Like he didn't have
Yeah.
to come to my graduation at all, and like he was just there. And so like that's when I knew like I found, especially when I found a unit in leadership that was very special. Big shout out to my unit. Everybody there is very they're very willing to help each other. They're very caring. They're very professional. Yeah, I really appreciate them, and I'm gonna miss them when they leave for deployment. I'm gonna miss them.
Yeah.
This has been I honestly, I'll be honest, if I didn't switch my MOS and I didn't meet such a great unit, I'm not sure if I would have extended, especially with because like the job I was doing, it was a job, but my goal at that point was just like I graduate and then and use the military to graduate, and that's it. But I ended up finding something I'm really passionate about in the military, a job that I love. I look forward to going to drill and and doing my job. And so and it's great experience. It builds great experience on your. It looks good on your resume, especially. I mean, I had an interview with the for career fair. I had an interview with the Federal Reserve, and like I'm not. That's not something that happens without the type of experience that I have. So when I'm in these career fairs, and I'm with other college students, I not only have my grades and my degrees, but I have the military experience to put on top of it, and that really sets you apart. And they're like, okay, you're grown, you know how to navigate in this world. Mind you, I'm young and I'm old. I'm 25, so it's like depends on who you're asking. If you
Yeah.
ask the freshman, I'm like 50. But if you ask if you ask anybody in my unit, I'm a child. So and I feel like the military has really put me in a great position. And me and my mom talk about it all the time. Just like, you know, you embrace the beginning, you embrace the hardships in the beginning, but it starts to really, I think pretty quickly it becomes worth it. You're like, man, I don't have debt. I don't have to deal with certain things other people will deal with. I have so many more opportunities. I have military benefits for hotels, the trips I go to. It's all these small things that add up. And to do that and to do a job that I love, I feel like that's a sweet deal. Sweet deal for me.
How old were you when you went into the Army National Guard? When you first enlisted?
I was 19.
19. Okay, so young and just starting off in the professional world. Did you anticipate? Did you forecast getting access, because you've earned all these, everything you just described, you put in the work and you get what you are, right? But that's really the theme of our conversation today. We don't always get what we want. You get what you are, and you're putting in the work. You've earned it. You've been doing this since you were 19, so 6 years. And yeah. Well, I'll say this. This is the older me now speaking. This is the guy who retired after 22 years of between active duty and Air National Guard time. It goes by quick, and all that, but there's a lot to factor in and a lot to consider. And some things we could forecast, some things we could get dialed in with and use it as a resource, as a building block. Other times things just happen organically and by chance and circumstance. Is that something when you were 19, when you went in, talk a little bit what motivated you to go in and how that set you up for your success that you are experiencing and that you continue to build upon?
So when I was really young, I wanted to join the military, and then I got older, and I was like, no, I don't know about that. I'll just stick to doing the pull-ups when the recruiters come in. I had a track scholarship in high school, and I ended up losing the scholarship because I injured my back. And so I was like, all right, well, my family, we don't have the resources to send me to college. And at first, I was like, I don't know, man. It sounds good when you're younger. You're like, oh, I'll join the military, but then you get there and you're thinking about it, like, this is a big task. There's a lot, and so I really thought about it. And at first, I think at first I was gonna go to the Air Force, and then but they didn't have. I don't think they had the job I wanted then. I mean, they did, but my access was limited. Wanted to be a paralegal, and then the military said, "We got a $20,000 bonus for you for a signal support system specialist." I was like, $20,000 bonus, yeah, that sounds good.
Yes,
Take $20,000
that's
bonus
very attractive when you're 19.
when you're 19,
Yeah,
and then you're like, taxes. I wonder how much of that I'll have. Not as much as I thought.
yeah.
But I was like, okay. When I got injured, I was down, and I'm like, I'm in community college. I went to community college for about a year. I'm racking up debt, living in people's houses that are not mine. So I'm trying to make something of myself. And I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna go join the army. Go to I want. I said to myself, I want a degree. I want my bachelor's degree. I feel like I worked hard in school and I love school. I wanted my bachelor's degree. I'm like, no, it doesn't get to end this way with me getting, and nothing's wrong with associates, but I didn't want it to end this way with me having my associates, thousands of dollars in debt, still living, from place to place. I was like, this can't go like this. So I was like, I signed up, and my recruiter, he was a real cool guy. I signed up at 19, went to MEPS. I went to Fort Jackson basic training. They call it relaxing Jackson. Didn't feel very relaxing to me. Did not feel relaxing at all.
Yeah.
I went there. I got great exposure. I got to be a PG, a platoon guy, and I got to be a squad leader, which also helped build my confidence because it was very
Okay.
it was low at the time. It helped build my confidence. And I came back and I finished my associates. Military paid for it, and I was like, you know what? Oh, that's when I found out in AIT at Fort Gordon. I was like, how do I take this job that I'm doing for the Army, support a specialist, and make it like something for college? I'm like, we're in communications, right? Which is an entirely different section of communications. And we just started talking about it, me and the rest of the soldiers. I was like, I think communication looks pretty cool, man. And which
Yeah.
was, sometimes people pick a degree and they're like, oh no. But I was like, oh yes, I like this.
Yeah.
And so, went to Penn State Harrisburg. My unit was literally 30 minutes down the road from Penn State Harrisburg. The news station worked out was 30 minutes down the road from Penn State Harrisburg. It was also central. It was perfect. And I felt I had more value because my unit and my news station were always in communications with each other. So sometimes my commander would ask for, help crafting certain messages for the news station because I worked at the news station. And I would see the messages come in and see what they responded to.
That's really awesome to hear how those opportunities presented themselves through the work you put in. But it speaks to the power of acknowledgement based off circumstances. Sometimes where we have these experiences where we hit a low and we identify as like, okay, how do I get to where I want to be, right? I didn't want to say low or how do I get out of this mess, because you get injured, you get hurt, you had these expectations of going to college based off an opportunity for the track scholarship, and that just came to an immediate halt. You inventoried what you could do to proceed, and it's led to all these. The return on investment of yourself is pretty incredible. Our biggest investment is ourself, through challenging ourselves, through putting in the work. And I know you said it's always perspective and optics, and depending on 25, young, old, a little bit in between, depending on who you're talking with and what the context is. But the return on investment for investing in yourself and putting in this work like you are is really, is going to pay intangible the dividends down the road that you are. And when you were talking about communications and how you identified and said, oh, this is a cool job. Communications and logistics are so important in any military operation. Without communications and logistics, very few things are successful, if there's any success at all. Here you're tapping into a critical component that's not only essential in the military across the board, but communications in our personal life or professional life and all that. I want to ask you something. You're doing a lot and you're managing a lot, and it's really empowering to hear all that you're doing, all that you've done, and what you're going to continue to do. Individuals who could be in a similar circumstance, whether they're in the Army National Guard, reserves, active duty, doesn't even have to be military. If they're in a challenging spot where they need to kind of look within and acknowledge, hey, this is where I'm at, but like you said, this is where I want to be. You identified that path forward. Like, okay, this is where I am, but more importantly, where do I want to be? And then that sets you up for. So what advice do you have for someone in those circumstances? And I don't care what age we are, I don't care what experiences we had. Life is very cyclical, and it's not a matter if, it's a matter when we experience something like that. So where you're at now and what you've experienced to date with everything, because it's pretty cool what you're doing and very motivating. What advice do you have that you could share with us?
I would say it's never about what you can't do. It's always about what you can. And, you can go in so many different directions. For me, I had a habit when I was young to just think about the negative, think about the negative, think about the negative. And when it's hard to distinguish a positive, distinguish an ability to progress when you keep doing that. And so even me, my acknowledgement was not immediate. It was not immediate by any stretch of the imagination. It took me like a few months to even start thinking. To start thinking of that plan. So what I would say is reach for something. Even if you're not sure what it is, show up for something. If you have any type of plan, I used to just go to career fairs, go to sign up for as many things as I could until I found something. You might not find it on the first try, the second try, but show up, be present, and do what you can. Be present and do what you can, and be a blessing to others. That's number one. Because sometimes people don't even remember. I have so many times people don't even remember what work I did. They've never seen my work, and they still wanted me to come in the office because I was polite. I had brought energy. I brought kindness. Didn't even need to see my work. So sometimes if you just show up in a positive capacity, you don't understand how much of a difference that can make to somebody.
The state of affairs we're in, we need this more than ever with our neighbors, with our friends, with our
Absolutely.
colleagues, everybody across the board. Embracing that mindset uh, is so important. There's a lot of different directions we could kind of go in that regard, but just from a basic humanitarian perspective, what you just said is it goes a long way. It really does, and it starts with us. It starts with us being positive, and I'll add to that respectful, honest,
Yep.
purposeful, intentional. And I believe that works for me. That helps ground me out. And hearing this is motivating, Ashon. It really is, because that's really what it's in my opinion, what it comes down to is looking within. All right, how can I be the best version of myself in a positive, respectful, honest, you could fill this in with all sorts of good power power words, right?
Yeah.
And that speaks volumes, because people are going to forget the content that you made even a couple weeks ago, a couple days ago. But what they are going to remember is who you are as a person, how you talk to them, how you listen to them, how you treated them, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of what you're. And I'll throw it out there, regardless if it's a political exchange, a professional exchange, a personal exchange, you you name it. At the end of the day, it's like, how was I there in the moment, being present? So I really appreciate that. I like hearing that, and I need to hear that, and I'll say it boldly. We all need to hear stuff like that, those affirmations on a daily basis. And it speaks to how you said the tangible, the measurables. Go to job fairs, go network, go challenge yourself, right? Those are very measurable, clear paths. But the intangibles of giving yourself access, giving yourself peace, resolve, forgiveness, there's helps us reinforce those relationships and build those bridges for all of us to be better. Because it speaks to, I know you said when you went to MEPS, acknowledge to action is about acknowledge, accept, process, plan, and action. It's also about post-military MEPS. Whether you're in the military or not, listening to this, MEPS, for all of us who put the uniform on and went to basic training, military entering processing station. It's military MEPS for me now, and this can apply for all anybody and everybody who wants to apply it to themselves. Mental, emotional, physical, social, spiritual. Those are critical components. Those are all things we all need and should address on a regular daily basis. Sometimes we need to focus a little bit more on the emotional side, sometimes more the physical side, social, spiritual, you name it. But keeping that and inventorying that, and being aware of our access points to manage that, are so important. And that takes work. So some of those opportunities, going back to what you said, come from an NCO and a senior NCO seeing potential in you based off what you bring to the table. Because if you didn't present those pictures to that sergeant first class, she never would have been. Why would she have even considered it? Because there was no context there. So we have to get out of our comfort zone and do things for the right reasons and an honest build those, because that experience you had helps you do that for the next person. So you as an E6 now, as a staff sergeant, and in all the other capacities that you're in, that's going to lead. That's going to help you be there for somebody who needs it, and they could help them be their best version of their art. We don't get what we want, we get what we are. What we are, who we are, through our experiences, access, and there's so many variables that go into it. So our conversation speaks to that, and it was really great to be able to connect with you like this, and everything you shared today. So I really appreciate this.
Yeah, and I appreciate being here. It's also helped me reflect. Like right now, right now, this master program is challenging me, and I got to remember how far I've come, and even though I still have far to go, just to stay locked in and stay focused because it's not done yet, not done working yet. And
Yeah.
so this was a good reminder for me as well. I kind of needed this a little.
No, this is good, and it's going to be with the Acknowledge to Action podcast. Those who are going to be able to access it, the resources that you talked about today will be in a comment section or in the episode description. So everybody who's listening, if you want more information or if there's any reference points that Ashon referenced to, it'll be accessible there. And that video, anything you can share with us based off the content material, I would love to just share that as well and incorporate that into the whether you're going to the YouTube channel, the Facebook page. Speaking of access points, there's a lot of different access points. It comes down to preference and what for a departing word, because the advice you gave today, what are you going to continue to do to continue to be the best version of yourself? And lastly, what can others do to, again, help them acknowledge that and help them on the path to action?
For me, it's constantly about growth. Personally, it's constantly about growth, never becoming satisfied, learning to acknowledge your victories. I didn't do that for a while because I was just worried about, oh, don't be satisfied, don't be satisfied. Give yourself some credit, especially when sometimes you can't tell how far you've come if you never take a chance to look behind you. You got to give yourself that opportunity to feel good. Doesn't mean you stop. Doesn't mean you stop or that you're satisfied. It's just like, I worked hard to get here. Now I work hard to get to the next place. So growth, and for me, what I give advice for other people is, it's not. I don't want to say don't settle, or like try as your best. If anybody sees my phone, you'd see that there's like thousands of notes there, all a bunch of alarms and stuff, organizations that have stuff, things that I didn't do. I kept planning and planning and planning. Just like the title says, you actually have to take the action. As much planning as you can. The conditions will not always be perfect. That is number one. The conditions will not always be perfect. There will never be. Life is so busy. Life is so complex and intricate. There will not always be a perfect time to do something. And if you keep waiting for the perfect time may never come. Take action when you can. Be realistic, but also do it when you can. And so, what I would say is, as soon as I get an idea or something, I start to plan it out. But I don't want to do this. Oh, I'm busy this week. Or busy that week. Busy that week. Mm-mm. Do what you can, and yeah, don't let life sweep away whatever you're dreaming about.
That's great. So really dial in on the result-oriented mindset versus all the reasons that could prevent you if you lean into that. That's great. Ashon, thank you. This has been great. My last question to you is, every guest to date has dedicated a song to the Acknowledge to Action playlist that's accessible on Spotify and Apple Music and YouTube Music. So what song speaks to you? What song do you want to dedicate? Because it's a pretty cool playlist, if I do say so myself.
I actually do have a song by Paramore, and I don't. Everybody probably recognizes "Ain't It Fun" by Paramore.
Okay.
You ever heard that song?
I'm familiar with Paramore. In this day and age, I don't remember titles of songs much
I'm not
anymore.
good at it.
The Paramore, I'm absolutely familiar with the artist Paramore. So what's really cool about this is I get to listen to that song again, and now it's going to have a little more meaning to me. It's like, man, this is the song that Ashon dedicated, and it means something to him. Therefore, it means something to Acknowledge the Action and all who are listening. So,
I think it's pretty relevant to the conversation too. You'll see.
okay.
Let me know what you think.
All right. Well, we will leave it at that, and we'll let comments on YouTube channel add to that. Ashon, thank you so much. This is really great to reconnect with you on this level. I am very inspired and motivated and proud of you, to be connected with you and to hear all these great things you are doing. And what you will continue to do. So
Thank you.
I look forward to stay connected with you, and I'm looking forward to sharing this with all who listen and all who access the Acknowledge to Action podcast.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, you take care. Until next time.
Till next time, Matt.
All right. Thank you for joining us on the Acknowledge to Action podcast. Each story we share is a reminder that while our journeys are unique, they carry the power to connect, inspire, and guide us all. What we acknowledge, we can accept. What we accept, we can process. And what we process, we can plan to take meaningful, productive action with focus, courage, and purpose. Through this path of awareness and support, we journey with resilience and a positive mindset toward meaningful growth and lasting change. My name is Matthew Benko. Until next time, this is Acknowledge to Action.